afternoon. How have you enjoyed your networking time today with Ottawa's business community? I love the buzz in the room. So my name is Su-Ling Ching, and it is my honor to be the President and CEO of the Ottawa Board of Trade. I am joined this afternoon by my co-presenter, Mr. Michael Curran. Stand up, Michael. No, okay. Never mind. The president and publisher of the Ottawa Business Journal, our premier business outlet here in Ottawa. We are excited to be gathered together in downtown Ottawa, particularly in this beautiful Canada Room at the National Arts Centre. Ottawa is built on unceded Algonquin and Anishinaabe territory. The peoples of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation have lived on this territory for millennia. Their culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. We honor the peoples and the land of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation. We honor all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples and their valuable past and present contributions to this land. Please feel free to start on your salads while I have my remarks, but do not touch your dessert. Salad only, okay? All right. We want to really thank all of you for being here this afternoon. We know that it's an investment of your time and energy, and we appreciate you doing that in the name of the growth of our business community and the building of our city. The Ottawa Board of Trade is the voice of business and a key economic partner in our region with a mission to cultivate a thriving, world-class business community. We want one that drives affordable, inclusive, innovative, and sustainable city building and community prosperity. And we are committed to convening local business and community leaders to collaborate on key issues as we build up Ottawa, and today is certainly no exception. The CEO Talk is an opportunity for you to tap into the expertise of world-class business leaders, hear about lessons learned, best practices, and better understand the opportunities as they see it for our future. Today, we are really looking forward to a conversation with Gary Bettman, the Commissioner of the NHL. Welcome to Ottawa, sir. And to Michael Andlauer, the owner of the Ottawa Senators. We appreciate you being here. I would also like to recognize Anna and Olivia Melnick. Thank you for coming today as well. And you've drawn quite a crowd here today. I don't think we've had this many guests since Michael Andlauer was a newcomer to Ottawa last year. So we're really thrilled to have this conversation today and hear an update about what's going on with our beloved senators. I would like to say a special welcome to Yasser Naqvi, the MP for Ottawa Centre, as well as Shauna Webster, who is the Deputy Chief of Staff to the Premier, the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs of Ontario, and the head of the Ontario Regional Office in Ottawa. That's a lot of work, Sean. Well, welcome to you both. Thank you for coming. A special thanks to the OBOT members, partners, and volunteers who work every day to ensure that Ottawa has a strong voice of business, including our board members, Brendan McGinty from Strategies 360, Priya Ballou from TAG HR, Ruby Williams from Deloitte, Hugh Gorman from Colonnade Bridgeport, and Melissa Reeves from Limebox Studio. We want to just say thank you for your steadfast leadership to our community and building our foundation for our future. So thank you. And I wish to acknowledge the pillar partners for the Ottawa Board of Trade who have joined us here today: Enbridge Gas, BDO, OSEG, CF Rideau, CLV Group, Interrent, Colonnade Bridgeport, Claridge Homes, Deloitte, the National Capital Commission. Thank you for elevating the important advocacy and economic development work of the Ottawa Board of Trade on behalf of our business community. Because of you, I have a few updates for you about the Ottawa Board of Trade. We've been working closely with our economic partners at the City of Ottawa, Ottawa Tourism, Invest Ottawa, BOMA Ottawa, and the NCC, as well as our pillar partners and community members on the implementation phase of the Downtown Ottawa Action Agenda that was released at the end of May. If you have not yet had a chance to read it, it's only 70-some pages, then you can find it at ottawabot.ca or at livingcapitalottawa.ca. We are pleased to inform you that in consultation with the City of Ottawa and our Downtown Advisory Council, and with the endorsement of our Board of Directors, the Ottawa Board of Trade has committed to stewarding the Downtown Action Agenda over the next 3 years in order to ensure a successful kickoff. In the coming weeks, we will be raising the seed funding needed for that kickoff, establishing a Downtown Champions Table, and launching the Downtown Vibrancy Office. We encourage every Ottawa business, entrepreneur, employees, and executives to actively find a way to support our local economy, become an OBOT member or pillar partner, be an ambassador, and a local business promoter. We have 2 great ideas for you to get started. Last week, we launched our fall-winter edition of Capital Magazine in partnership with TAG. It is designed as a tool for each of you to use to tell others about the Ottawa community. It is filled with insights, stories, and updates about the exciting things happening here and the people who are making it happen. Pick one up here on your table or across the city, or you can go to capitalmag.ca. Finally, our local small businesses are the backbone of our community, our economy, and our culture. The upcoming season is an important one for their bottom line and a unique opportunity for each of you to demonstrate your support. During the pandemic, we worked with key partners to launch Buy Local Ottawa. It's #BuyLocalOttawa. This year, we are doing an online launch in partnership with United Way, Ottawa Tourism, Invest Ottawa, RGA, and Ecobia. We would like you to mark in your calendars November the 25th at 11 a.m., when we encourage all of you to go onto your social channels and get to promoting the importance of buying local, sharing stories of how you have supported local businesses, and promoting your favorite local businesses. We have an opportunity to transform our city core into a more diverse, resilient, and vibrant downtown than it has ever been, a more diverse city than it's ever been. And it requires leveraging our assets, building for the future, and supporting local businesses and organizations. It is complex work, but together, I know that we can do it. We need to fill our city with a variety of people to live, visit, learn, invest, open and grow businesses. We need to diversify our economic base, our talent base, build more homes, an efficient transit system, and prioritize safety and security for all. It's game time, Ottawa. Are you ready? Yes. Now, I'd like to take a moment to thank our generous sponsors for making this afternoon possible. Of course, the Ottawa Senators, Algonquin College, Casino Lac Limi, Oakwood Designers and Builders, and to our venue, the National Arts Center. Can we have a big round of applause to thank our sponsors for today? Enjoy your beautiful lunch, and after which we'll get going with our programming. Thank you. So enjoy your dessert and coffee, but we're going to get started with our program. So it is my pleasure now to bring to the stage Gary Bettman, Commissioner of the NHL, Michael Andlauer, owner of the Ottawa Senators, and to moderate the conversation, Ian Mendez, the VP of Communications for the Ottawa Senators. Welcome.
Obligatory handshake.
Not obligatory. I meant it from the heart.
I know. It felt heartfelt from both of us. So,
okay.
First of all, we have a hard out at 1:40 because that's when my parking expires up on Elgin Street. I don't know if anybody else had problems finding parking, but it was a...
You were lucky. At least you got parking.
But
You should have taken the LRT.
That's pretty good. I had the over-under at 2 minutes for the first LRT joke, so that I came in.
And that's from a foreigner.
So, listen, I'm really honored to be able to moderate this conversation, and we want to have a conversation that people in this room will appreciate. But I do want to point out a couple of things. Michael, maybe you don't know this, a bit of a milestone for you tonight. I didn't even tell you, didn't give you the heads up on this. Tonight is game number 100 for you as owner of the Ottawa Senators.
Wow.
82 games last season, 18, obviously, game number 18 tonight against Edmonton. So let me ask you this. Does it actually feel like it's been 100 games? Does that sound about right?
No, it feels like it was just yesterday. Honestly, we sat on a press conference together, Gary, and being introduced to the city, and so for me, it's been just like yesterday, really. But I'm enjoying every minute of it. That's for sure.
What was the first thing I asked you today? Are you having fun?
He said, he asked me, are you having fun? And I said, no. Fun is winning. But I am enjoying it. I'm truly enjoying this.
And Gary, I'm going to ask you a question now. It's been more than 100 games that you've been in this league. In fact, February 1st will mark 32 years for you as commissioner. February 1st, 1993.
Thanks, I think.
Yeah, it's a compliment.
That may make me one of the oldest people in the room.
Well, it makes you the longest serving commissioner in professional sports. And I saw this stat. This was remarkable to me, that over the course of your tenure, and again, started February of 1993, that during your time as commissioner, 59% of players who have ever played a game in the NHL have done so under you as commissioner. I think it's 56% of coaches, and 52% of all games that have ever happened in the NHL have happened under his watch. It's remarkable, right? Now,
thank you. But it's interesting, and I'll take this off on a little tangent. As I look around the room, I am so gratified to see the response and the support that this community has for Michael and the Senators. And with all those great stats, without ownership as strong as you have here, without teams like the Senators, I'm completely irrelevant. So it's really about you and the roots of this franchise and the difference it makes in the community and having strong, committed ownership. So thank you.
My pleasure.
So let's kick this off by talking about something that I know is on the agenda for later today, because it was in the newspaper today, and as you know, anything that's in the paper is true. And that is, you have some meetings coming up later today, and obviously the big topic in this in this room, in this community, is the downtown arena at LeBreton Flats. So Gary, let me start by asking you, what is the importance of a downtown arena as you look across the league and you look at attendance issues and things of that nature? Why is the downtown arena important from your vantage point?
You know, that's a great question, and it really starts with understanding what the community wants and what the community needs. And everything I've heard from people in the business community, from the mayor, is there needs to be something that vitalizes or revitalizes downtown, that's a magnet to draw people downtown. And the Canadian Tire Center is a perfectly nice arena, and the Senators could play there forever. But it's not exactly the most central location. Never has been, even though Canada has grown. And I remember when I used to first go to the arena, you were probably still in elementary school, but the fact is you wouldn't see anything for the last 20 minutes of the drive. And it's built up, and that's great. But do you want to have something beyond the 50 or so games, playoffs possibility? You want to have more family shows, more concerts, more things that can come to this community that will impact the quality of life in Ottawa. And surrounding it, if the building's being used 150 nights because it's centrally located, then you get more shopping, you get more people going for dinner, you get more bars and entertainment. And so this is, any new building has to be a community, public-private based endeavor, or it doesn't work. It has to make sense to the Senators, or they can stay where they are. Or you can do something that really designed to improve the quality of life in Ottawa. And so that's a judgment that this group and the civic leaders and Michael have to make. But when I see what, for example, happened in Edmonton, it was transformative. And I have, in part, I was involved in the negotiations, and in part, I lived there in the bubble for 3 weeks during COVID. So you can transform a city by having an anchor tenant. And the question is, what does the city want to make this all make sense?
Yeah, Michael, I'll allow you to just maybe piggyback off that, because that is something, when you've spoken to the media, you've always talked about, this isn't my rink, this isn't the Senators' rink, this is the community's rink.
Yeah, I mean, Gary alluded to the 50 games. That's 50 dates. We live in I mean, I've got a place here in Ottawa now on Dow's Lake, but we have a place in Toronto, and right now Toronto is busy this week.
Actually,
So there's a lot of Taylor Swift fans here.
I was at the Taylor Swift concert with my granddaughter on Friday night, and you couldn't believe what was going on in that city. Hotels, I can tell you firsthand, tripled their rates. Restaurants were packed and booked. It wouldn't have happened if the arena were in Mississauga. Okay, it just wouldn't. No knock on Mississauga, it's a very nice city, the airport's there, but you get the point. And this is about, what do you want? This is a great city. This is a great place to be. I love it in the winter, it's wonderful in the summer, but do you want to encourage more and more people to be here and be downtown? And that actually affects the quality of life for people who live here.
Yeah, and I was going to say, you don't live in Toronto, you live in New York, right? And your granddaughter, same thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it brings tourism. There's so much more. It's such a powerful venue. And for me, it's not, I'm just a catalyst for this. I think I've listened in my first year here in Ottawa. Everybody wants this. Everybody I speak to, even, I've got a sponsor, Lac Lémy Casino. They're in Gatineau or based in Quebec, and I know the mayor of Gatineau wants this. I think to me, it makes a lot of sense, and all I am is a catalyst to make this happen, or at least to collaborate and work together, and see it through, because I think this city is fantastic. I've fallen in love with this city. The people are it's as Canadian as it gets. And it deserves to be shown off.
My big, yeah, well said. My biggest takeaway from that, Gary Bettman confirmed Swiftie. It's, do people recognize you?
No.
Do they recognize you at the?
Yeah, I was actually getting, people were handing me bracelets with, go Leafs, go Sens, go. I mean, but no. My granddaughter's the Swiftie. I was being a good grandpa.
There we go.
There's a big difference.
Big difference.
By the way, even if you don't like her music, not that she needs me to help sell tickets, the concert's amazing. I mean, 3 hours and 15 minutes, 46 songs nonstop. Who does that? The only thing that's better in person is a hockey game.
I want to talk to you a little bit about, and we're talking about the economics, obviously, of a new arena, and all of this is often tied into the salary cap. And I want to ask you both about that, because there's talk that the salary cap could be going up significantly for next season. And maybe, Gary, I'll just lay it on a tee for you there as it pertains to the salary cap.
Your profession and the stories that either orally or in print never cease to amaze me, okay? Some so-called insider decides this will be a good way to fill air because he needs a story. Fact is, revenues are growing, okay? And the players are entitled to 50% of the revenue, and that's growth. Having said that, the numbers that have been thrown around aren't quite right, and we have a structure as to how the cap is determined. In order for those numbers to even be close, even if the revenue numbers which are overstated for that projection are right, have to be negotiated. And we haven't had any discussions about that with the Players Association. So yes, the cap's going to go up, but it's not going to go up by nearly as much as speculated. The good news, and most importantly, is revenues are growing, which is a testament to the strength of the game, and it's also the environment we're living in where content is the most important thing that any media company can have. The game has never been in better shape competitively. Our games are unpredictable. The skill level, the speed of the game, come from behind victories for this year and the last couple of years are trending towards record highs. You know, in the dead puck era, whoever scored the first goal, the game was over. You know firsthand, you don't see that. So the game is in a good place. Revenues will continue to grow because that's a fact of life in all sports. But we have some work to do with the Players Association for that to be anything close to what is going to happen in the short term.
And well, I was just going to ask you, as a small market owner, like the cap going up may not necessarily be a great thing. And I go back to what 04, 05.
We also have revenue sharing.
Yeah, there's revenue sharing, but
That goes with the
like
cap.
the cap was 39 million. It's wild to think in 05, 06 it was $39 million, right? When coming out of that.
But
right?
I don't understand what that means. When I took over, the revenues for the entire league were $437 million, and this year in mixed dollars will go over $7 billion. So, you know, the fact that my guess is as this team gets older and more mature, because it's maybe the youngest team in the league, you're going to wind up at the cap.
We'll manage it right. No, I mean, it's a good question because I think a lot of us are. The neat thing about it here, Gary, is that the hockey roots are well entrenched. They love their Senators here. They're passionate fans. They're knowledgeable fans. Hopefully, they don't. They're not going to boo you tonight. I promise.
You know what? No.
They might.
It's a sign of affection. I've always said, I get booed. Occasionally, I don't get booed. But if I ever go out there and it's quiet, then I know I have a problem.
Yeah. That's my mom used to say that. If I don't talk to you, indifference, that's the worst thing.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. No, but from our perspective, I bought this team. It's a passion of mine. And my commitment to Ottawa was that I was going to, treat it like a business, and be responsible like a business, and make sure that we're sustainable for years to come. And it goes with working hard and making sure that the grassroots are well entrenched, that we love our Senators, that we have a responsible product both on and off the ice. Led with our foundation. I think Jacqueline Belcito is here tonight, this afternoon, I should say. So it's as a small market team, it's a lot harder, but I'll also let you know that this year we're not only at the cap, but cash over cap, we're about $6 million cash over cap. So I got about $6 million to play with, at least for next year and the year after. At least that's probably what GM's telling me. But we're committed. We're committed, and it won't be easy. But we'll be. You can still be competitive and not have to be at the cap moving forward.
And I think from a league standpoint, the franchise is in strong hands with you. And I think credit is due to Eugene Melnick for stepping up when the franchise had some issues and was coming out of reorganization and persevered and was committed and passionate about the team as well. It starts with ownership, but
Yeah, that's well said, because in 03, there was a lot of uncertainty about this team, right, in their future.
well, I was never uncertain about the market. Ownership is, you're fortunate that you had Eugene Melnick and now that you have Michael Andlauer. And that's something when I or anybody talks about supporting the team, particularly from the corporate community, think about the commitment that this man and his partners have made to this, not just to this team, but to this community. And that's why, going back to your first question, if there's going to be a new building and it's going to be downtown, it needs to make sense for everybody.
Can I ask you? This is just as.
Can you ask us? That's
why
we're here.
I got no. Yeah, I guess that's. I'm trying to figure out the easiest way to ask this question, but really, when I talk to a lot of fans in Canada. They will say there's a competitive disadvantage vis-a-vis, and I can see you want to
stop it.
you're gonna answer.
It-
But
it
let
says
me
that.
get the question out, and then you can attack me. So the question is basically, or the fear from fans is that, hey, Florida won the Stanley Cup, Tampa won back-to-back Stanley Cups. All these teams are winning, and they have no state income tax, and that in
And this only became an issue 20 years after the cap went into effect, right? And
Yes.
Tampa and Florida happened to win. Really? Nobody was saying this when Florida
Vegas
had a
too.
half-empty building and had one of the worst records in the league. Same thing with Tampa. It goes to ownership. Not just financially. What's the environment that you create for your fans and for your players? Is this a place where players want to be? And by the way, if you want to buy a house on the water in Tampa or South Florida, it's probably more than buying a house on the water up here. So it's not just about taxes. It's about, where do you want to live? Where do you want to raise your family? Are you going to play for an owner who is player-centric, like Michael is? And that's what it's about. The taxes, that's an excuse by teams that don't win.
Oh, I love the reaction from the live studio audience. They're like, whoa, he said what?
No, I think Gary makes some very valid points, and I'm not going to deny. You can't deny that when an agent they're talking to GM, and I mean my son interned with one of the agencies, and the first thing that one of the agents said, "Here, kid, give me the list, and I want the tax rates for all these just to get the value, the net value for my player." So it's there. Having said that, as you all know, you're all employed or employers, and work environment is everything. You can get paid all the money in the world, but if you don't have the right work environment. And I'll give you an example. Arguably, somebody would say, okay, one of the best goalies in the NHL is now donning at Ottawa Center jersey.
Yeah.
And the reason for him coming here is his love for the city, because it was the perfect place for him to raise his family. He had two young children. So you got Ottawa's. I want Ottawa to be a destination that players feel comfortable, and have a team that understands that's what's in best. So we have 18 players. We have 21. These players have 21 children, all under 7 years old, on our team today. They're loving raising their family here in Ottawa, and this is a great place to raise a family. Way better than Toronto or New York.
Well, and there are two other points. Because we have a hard cap, so even if you think the no tax or Sun Belt state teams can sign anybody they want, there's only a limit. But more importantly, what gets lost in this conversation, particularly north of the 49th parallel, is the players are being paid in U.S. dollars. And so that creates a reverse advantage in terms of cost of living and everything else.
Something
Well,
you touched. Oh, sorry.
As a business owner, I don't like my costs being in U.S. dollars these days.
Something you
Right, Aaron?
touched on earlier, Gary, was content, and how now content is something that the league is monetizing, teams are monetizing. Amazon is in the game. They're actually, our game on Monday against Calgary will be the first time an Amazon Prime game is broadcast for us, so we're excited for that. I'm wondering where you see, maybe just in Canada too, because you got the long deals in the US, but in Canada, the deal is up with Rogers in about 18 months.
Correct?
Where do you see the future of Canadian broadcasting, and is Amazon a player?
Well, since I'm going to be in negotiations soon, I don't want to get too specific, but the point I want to make is that particularly young fans, Gen Zs, millennials, now Gen As, you've got to be current in terms of how you're delivering your content. And that's two things. One, you have a lot of people who don't have cable or satellite anymore. All they do is sign up for streaming services, and you need to be able to reach these people. People want to get content on their own terms. And secondly, and perhaps most important, the type of content has shifted. Younger people in particular, although even people my age find it interesting, you want to know more. You want behind the scenes. You want to know what car a player drives, what his family life looks like, where he lives, how he works out, what he eats for dinner. And Face Off was a good example of that. I don't know how many of you saw it, but for like a month it was the #1 streamed show on Amazon Prime in Canada. We need to deliver more content than just the game itself. And within the game itself, puck and player tracking has been another way to create data and put people who are interested inside the game. And ultimately, you're going to be able to watch a game on your own terms. You decide you want to focus on the goaltender, you want to focus on a particular player, you're going to be able to do that. Or you can sit, like older people, sedentary on your couch and just watch the game. People want to have more options, and if you're going to feed your fan base what it wants, you've got to be adaptable and use technology to make that connection. Don't change the game to suit technology. It's use the technology to bring people closer to the game, and that's something all sports are going to have to do.
And a team like the Dallas... Oh,
Thank you. You can keep going. That's okay. Doesn't happen often.
a team like the Dallas Stars have moved right to a streaming model. And Michael, as the national deal expires in 2026, so too does the regional deal for Ottawa. And I'm wondering where you think maybe even just the local deal what that could look like from Ottawa's perspective.
Cyril, you want to say something? No, we've had a very strong relationship with Bell, TSN, and I guess the question is that are they willing to adapt? And I think they're figuring it out, or they have to figure it out. There's no choice. Same thing. At the end of the day, we're open, but it's what's in the best interest of our fans that we're going to look at, and it needs to be competitive. It doesn't have to be the highest price, but it needs to be. Still has to connect with the fans. I think that's what Gary's mentioned there. That's ultra important. We've seen other leagues go for the biggest price, and all of a sudden they lost their fan base. It's got to be the right time. So that's my perspective.
Yeah. Gary, Utah has been a smash hit this season. Vegas, Seattle, it's sort of reignited chatter around expansion. And a lot of people are wondering, can this league go bigger than 32 teams? What would your answer be to that question?
I think there's certainly more than enough talent. When you look at the difference between NHL players and the players that there's just miss, it's minuscule. I don't see us going to 50 teams ever, and we're not in a formal expansion mode. When as a league, when the governors look at expansion, and it's their decision, there are really 4 criteria you focus on. First, and it'll come as no surprise based on the discussion we have, most important is owner. Second is the market. Is it a market that would support a team? And in 2 most recent cases, Vegas and Seattle, there's been no question about that. Third is the arena. Is there a state-of-the-art arena in the right location? That was very subtle. And the 4th criteria is, will it make the league stronger? Will it improve our footprint? Will it engage more new fans? I mean, Vegas is a very good example of that. People were extremely skeptical. We went there first. Everybody was skeptical. We even got criticized, and now every other league thinks they invented it. Imitation is the highest form of flattery, but at the end of the day, you need to check those 4 boxes if you're of a mind to expand. And if the right opportunity came along, and we've had numerous expressions of interest, we'd consider it. But I don't think we have ever viewed further expansion as our manifest destiny. But if the right opportunity came along, we'd take a look at it.
And Michael, from an owner's perspective, I mean, obviously there's a big check that comes with expansion that gets divvied up, and it doesn't.
Yeah, it is. It's a one-time check.
Yeah.
So if you're going to own a team for 20 years, you're not doing it for those reasons. At least that's my perspective.
But it's worse than that, because when you expand, if you have 32 teams national revenues are divided 32 ways. If you add a 33rd team, you're diluting your equity, and there's an economic consequence and value to that dilution. So yes, it's a one-time check, but it's compensating you for what you're giving up long term. And a lot of people, particularly in the media, seem to miss that point. They think expansions, not you.
Hey, I'm not in the media anymore.
No, the people you used to know.
Yeah.
It's not a cash grab. It's really a trade-off of dollars, which is why the fourth criteria, will it make the league stronger, is really the most important point.
Yeah, so can I finish answering the question? Yeah.
I was trying to help you.
No, absolutely. No, we're definitely aligned. But I think from a fan's perspective and from Ottawa Senators' perspective, I look at it, I go, another team, that's, I mean, if every team wins the cup once, that's every 32 years, right? So another one is, you're talking about the dynasty of the Montreal Canadiens when there were 6 teams, for example. I'm just saying it makes it a little bit more difficult. And personally, I love rivalries. I think, Gary, you and I have had this discussion. We love the rivalries within our region and everything. And I hate to think that we'd have to play another team every year and one less game. We're only playing Toronto 3 times this year. I'd love to beat them 5 times.
But
thanks for the question, Ian.
But no, that was good. But let's look at this. The way the schedule works, you lose 1 home game with Toronto every 7 years. So it's not exactly the worst.
Montreal
And by the way, you have Edmonton in here tonight.
And we're not sold out.
You're not sold out. That's ridiculous. Will you go call your friends and tell them to all come out? Connor McDavid, come on.
No, it'll be fine. You'll love it tonight. But it's, I know. That's next question.
There we go. Very smooth.
I'm glad I cut you off before. I shouldn't have let you weigh in.
Well, hey, listen, speaking of Connor McDavid, in February, he's part of the Four Nations face-off.
Yes.
And for people who don't know in this room, the league is actually going to press pause in February. And it's a 4-team tournament with Finland, Sweden, United States, and Canada. And this is going to hopefully kickstart a new cycle of Olympic or sort of international competition. One thing that I'd love for you to maybe explain to the crowd is I remember years ago, Gary, you actually went to and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you went to the IOC and had the discussion about maybe having the NHL in the Summer Olympics so it wouldn't disrupt your schedule, but now we're at the point it's going to disrupt your schedule. So how, as owners, as the commissioner, your season stops in the middle of it, right when things are getting good. So how do you balance that with the desire of the players and all of the things that go into it?
That's a great question, and ultimately we do it because that's the desire of the players. And what we've learned, not that it was a surprise over time, that our players have a history and tradition of representing their countries. We are, from a diversity standpoint of different countries, the most diverse of the North American sports leagues, and it's important to our players to represent their countries, yes. When we first went back to the Olympics, when I initiated that effort in 1998, I said it would be nice if we went in the summer. And they said, in IOC speak, the charter says Winter Olympics, ice and snow, so you can't play in the summer because there's no ice and snow. And I go, well, that was before they had arenas that could make ice artificially. And then the byproduct was, yeah, but we also sell more tickets to hockey in the Winter Olympics than any other event, and we have more hours of television programming on hockey than any other event, and so as a business matter, you're not going anywhere. We went to the Olympics for a number of them, and it is disruptive because what happens is, because of the overall composition of our player pool, some NHL teams will send 10 players to the Olympics, and some will send 1 or 2, and after 2 weeks of the Olympics, some teams are going to have their players tired from traveling halfway around the world and playing in a tournament, and others have spent 10 days on the beach with their kids, and it kind of disrupts the flow. And that's just the reality of where it is, and we get no money for going. We never sought any money for going. We're now going to go because the players tell us this is important to them, and we respect that, and so we'll deal with the disruption. But we're going to do Olympics, 2 years later World Cup, which we'll do, 2 years later Olympics, 2 years later World Cup, and so on. 4 nations was a way for us to get started in a very short time frame, and I think the rivalries between the U.S., Canada, Finland, and Sweden, they're going to make it a very exciting, interesting tournament. And you know, we need to acknowledge the authenticity of what we are, even if it's disruptive, which it is. And by the way, if you remember, we didn't go to the Olympics in Korea. We were planning to go back in Beijing, but because of COVID and the fact that in the 56-game schedule, where we weren't allowed to cross borders or anything, we had to reschedule 150 games, so we had to do the Olympic break in that, but we're now committed to going to Milan, and I know the players are looking forward to it, and on some level, so am I.
I know we probably have to start to wrap up here. I do want to ask you about growing the game globally. Tonight we've got Leon Draisaitl and Tim Stützle, a couple of Germans in the building, and 2 of the bright young stars in this game. And I'm wondering about playing regular season games overseas. You've done it every year now. It feels like for the last, COVID not included, last 10 years or so. What returns are you seeing from that as a league?
The real, at least at this point, we do it. And this year we played 2 games in Prague and 2 games earlier this month in Finland. A third of our players come basically from Northern Europe. And we want to continue to encourage the growth of the game and the development of world-class athletes. Best hockey players in the world come to play in the NHL. And so we like, and the players like, to be able to go home, play in front of their families, friends, fans, and so it's a special trip for them. It's good bonding for the team, and it continues for us to have a presence there. The games don't make a lot of money, in fact, you know, based on the cost of doing it, but we have media arrangements in 150 countries around the world, and it gives us a presence that we think is important to continue the growth of the game.
Michael, I'll ask you, because you're just taken over as owner last year and you had the experience in Sweden, and I'm wondering what that was like for you last year, and if you would be open to something like that down the road.
Well, I learned what fika is, which is coffee and the big Swedish tradition. No, I really enjoyed it. I think for some of our players, obviously, but I think, you know, one thing that Gary has done incredibly well, and you know, he not only is one of the hardest workers that I know. I don't know how he does it with his schedule, but he truly cares for this game, and he looks at it through the lens of tomorrow, or you know, where are we going to be tomorrow? Because there are competitive factors out there, and as a Canadian, as hockey has been part of the fabric of our culture, fabric of this country, and part of this culture, with immigration coming in, it's foreign. So he looks at it from that lens, and growing the game and making sure that those roots are entrenched are the reasons why you do the things we do. And I think being a global game is only good for the Ottawa Senators.
Final question to you, and he did it again last night with 2 more goals. Alex Ovechkin's off to a terrific start this year, and hopefully he's not banged up too much from that hit last night. But I'm starting to wonder, he might get to 894 this season. And I'm wondering, are you starting to look at your schedule in March and April and thinking, I might need to clear my schedule and start following the Capitals around? Because I would imagine you'd like to be in the building when it's 894, 895 for Ovi.
Well, based on how he's been scoring in clusters, it might have to be even earlier than that. No, we've actually had discussions. This is a really big deal, and we intend to promote it as a really big deal, not just for the Washington Capitals, but for all of hockey. And I've had discussions with the Great One, as opposed to the Great Eight, and we're going to probably be on the road together when he gets down to 5 goals to make sure we're there when a spectacular moment happens. I was in the building when Gretzky set the record. It is, records like that are almost once-in-a-lifetime events. and it's going to be great to see. And Wayne has said he welcomes the opportunity to congratulate Wayne because he knows how hard it was to get to that point.
All right, well said. We'll leave it there because I know Michael Kern wants to say something. But Michael, Gary, thanks so much. I'm feeling some podcast energy here, the three of us. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Ian. Great job.
Yeah, you got it.
I'll take the mic. Thanks, Michael.
Yep.
Yeah, we can leave it up here. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Kern from the Ottawa Business Journal. I have the great privilege of wrapping up here today. Let me first say there is a great level of energy and excitement in this room, and I hope we can bottle it. We all see the arena, I think, as a potential pivot point for the downtown. So certainly I think many business leaders are here in great appreciation and admiration of the Ottawa Senators, but equally we're here for the economic potential to, as someone said earlier today, to virtually double the downtown core. And I think you being here, Mr. Commissioner, and Mr. Andlauer, the incredible investment that you've made in our city kind of signals to us what the business community also needs to do. So there will certainly be lots of discussions behind closed doors that we won't be privy to. I think what we need to do as a business community, Su Ling, I'm sure you would agree with this, is be prepared to advocate for this project in a very passionate type way. You know, when I think, I'll get off my soapbox here in a second, but when I think of what happened at TD Place, that was a bumpy road. And I think projects like these need advocates, and those advocates are here in the room today. So let's get prepared to get behind this project. Big round of applause for Michael Andlauer and the Commissioner. I don't know where Ian disappeared to, but I also wanted to thank Ian. Ian's so good at doing those interviews, they put him on payroll. Oh, there he is. And still, he's pitching hardballs or firing slap shots at these guys. That's pretty interesting to see. There's a real dynamic out there, Ian. And finally, I want to thank Cyril Leader and team for giving us the opportunity to host today. That means a lot to us to bring local business leaders out here. As we wrap up, and we will wrap up in about 2 minutes, we'll have you out the door and on your way to get back to work. I do want to recognize the great sponsors that lined up to support us here today: the Ottawa Senators, Algonquin College, Casino Lac Leamy. Thank you, Julie. Oakwood Designers and Builders, Rogers TV, and our venue, the beautiful National Arts Centre. Big round of applause for our sponsors.